My name is Sarah Lockhart. I drove 6 hours on Christmas Eve because that's what daughters do when tradition calls, even when tradition has become obligation dressed as cheer. Two jackknifed semis turned the freeway into a parking lot. The playlist on my phone ate its own tail somewhere around hour 4. Gas station coffee tasted like hot pennies and regret. But I kept going, because it was Christmas, because there were supposed to be chairs with names in this family, even if mine never felt engraved. When I walked through the front door, my bag barely made it to the floor before my mother appeared, with a look that said the line had been rehearsed all day. "So, small change," she announced, brightness sharpened to a point. "We gave your seat to Mrs. Langford. She's alone this year." "I thought I misheard," she added, careful and kind for the audience. "She's sitting with us at the table. We figured you'd be fine having your plate in the kitchen." They said it like generosity. I heard it like inventory. I knew why, too. Mrs. Langford, owns the discount flooring outlet 2 towns over, the same one my parents have been orbiting for months to charm a deal on new hardwood. That was the exchange rate of my presence. $2 a square foot and a handshake. The worst part was the way Mrs. Langford looked at me from the table, guilty, apologetic, as if she could feel the humiliation radiating from the doorway. "I'm fine," I said. It came out level, almost serene. I turned, picked up my coat, and walked back out into the cold. No one followed me. The porch light hummed like a thought I didn't want to think. I drove without a destination until the roads made one for me. Maya's place. My cousin didn't ask questions when she opened the door. She never has. I sank into her couch, we watched Die Hard, and ate a freezer-burned pizza that tasted like rescue. The whole thing might have stayed a sad anecdote if not for the text that landed at 8:30. My sister. Wow. Can't handle being ignored, huh? A taunt dressed as insight. I opened my banking app, watched the numbers blink like distant lighthouses, and froze the mortgage assistance I'd been sending. Then I opened the streaming account, the one we all used, and shut it down. Mid-movie, mid-profile. I pictured my dad's confounded face when the big guy couldn't log in. I thought that would be the end of it for the night. It wasn't. At 9:04 p.m., a message from Dad's number, signed by both of them, slid into the dark like a blade. "We talked about it. You've always been a failure. You ruin every holiday, every get-together. We don't need you anymore." Clean. Final. And so revealing it looped from pain into clarity. I showed Maya. She didn't speak. She pressed a glass into my hand the way you hand someone a railing. That was the precise second something in me shifted. Not to rage, not even to sorrow, but to a colder, steadier register. Inventory. They had no idea what they depended on. They had no idea what I built. They thought I set up printers and reset passwords. They didn't know the house they curated ran on systems I'd wired under my business, that the comforts they considered normal were, in fact, the quiet hum of my labor. I didn't sleep. Not because I was wounded. Honestly, the sting faded somewhere between canceling their streaming and the last bite of pizza. But because my mind went mechanical. What did they lean on? What had I installed? Where were the keys buried, and which ones were mine? By sunrise, I was at Maya's kitchen table with coffee she brewed without a word, my laptop open, and a list that had the calm of a winter lake. I logged into the admin console for my company. In my 20s, it was tech support. Now it's a nationwide infrastructure backbone for mid-sized clients. My parents never tracked the growth. They never asked. It served them to believe I fixed computers, because utility is easier to love than agency. First action, 7:10 a.m. I suspended their cloud license. That single toggle would quietly take down the home camera network, the smart locks, and their thermostat control, every comfort they bragged about, every alert they ignored until they needed me. Next, the family phone plan. I didn't cancel it. That would be performative. I transferred ownership to them. Except in 72 hours, or the lines go dark. Then I opened the mortgage portal. The cosigner removal would take longer, but I initiated the process anyway. Without my credit and income, they wouldn't qualify the way they did when someone called me kiddo and slid the papers across the desk. After that, I went hunting for the quiet tributaries, the ones that seem small until they all run dry. The password manager I'd given them, the Prime account that delivered their every whim in cardboard smiles, the the storage unit housing holiday decor, and my dad's vintage tools, which I paid for temporarily 3 years ago. One by one, I turned the taps off. By late morning, my phone started its little theater. Mom, we thought you'd be reasonable. The house could go into default. Sister, you're being dramatic. Grow up. Dad, this is childish. Childish, the word people use when they meet a boundary and don't like how it feels. At noon, the Netflix thread from the family group lit up with confusion and blame. I didn't answer any of it until just before sleep. Then I typed one message into the chat. You said you didn't need me. No emoji, no punctuation. A mirror is best when it's clean. Before I closed the laptop, I checked the last dashboard. Business clients, my parents' accounting firm, my uncle's dental clinic, both running on my company's stack. I had built them from the ground up, gave them enterprise tools, never billed them a cent because someone once said, family helps family, like a binding contract I'd signed at birth. I opened each profile and changed the status. Terminated. I left a single note in the admin panel. Maintained at no cost for over a decade. Effective today, this account is closed. Thank you. Maya was on the couch, scrolling through her own thoughts. She looked over, read my face the way only someone raised in the same weather can, and nodded. They're not used to the world without you. For the first time all night, I believed her. And for the first time in years, I wanted that world to exist. The morning after Christmas, I expected silence. Instead, my phone erupted like a malfunctioning alarm clock. Dad's first message came at 8:04 a.m. You're being dramatic. Grow up. My sister followed. You've always been the outsider anyway. Why are you acting surprised now? And then, as if to crown the performance, my mother chimed in. You think we owe you for things we never asked for? You're not a martyr, Sarah. Stop playing the victim. I didn't reply to any of it. I just let the words collect on the screen, heavy and predictable. They didn't even realize I was still building the rest of the list. I logged into my company's back-end system, the one that manages client infrastructure and home automation accounts. 2 names were flagged as family clients. My parents' accounting firm and my uncle's dental clinic. I'd onboarded them years ago when I was still trying to earn respect through convenience. Free setup, no billing, lifetime support. They called it generosity. I called it unpaid labor. One by one, I deactivated their licenses, removed their administrative access, and left a single dashboard message. This system was maintained free of charge for over a decade. Effective immediately, your account has been closed. It wasn't revenge, it was truth in a sentence. An hour later, the fallout began. Missed calls from Mom, then Dad, then Uncle Paul. I ignored them all. Maya was at the kitchen counter, laptop open, coffee mug steaming between her palms. She didn't say anything at first, just watched me watching the phone. Finally, she asked, How's it feel? I thought about it. Like oxygen, I said. Like I've been underwater my whole life and finally came up for air. Maya gave a small smile. They'll try to make you feel guilty next. That's their favorite trick. She wasn't wrong. By noon, my inbox was full of long, desperate paragraphs from people who had never sent me a single thank you email. The accounting firm couldn't access its database. The clinic couldn't log into billing software. My uncle's assistant wrote, We can't process appointments. Everything's locked. Can you fix it? Fix. Always that word. Never help, never acknowledge. Just fix. I forwarded that email to a trusted colleague at another IT firm. They'll be calling you soon, I wrote. Charge your full emergency rate. It wasn't cruelty. It was commerce. Around 3 o'clock, I finally stepped outside. The air was bright and biting, the kind of cold that feels like it's trying to teach you a lesson. I walked around the block, hands in my coat pockets, phone buzzing nonstop. It didn't feel like noise anymore. It felt like proof. When I got back, another message was waiting from my dad. You never amounted to anything. You think this makes you powerful? We pity you. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly on brand. The last weapon of the powerless, contempt disguised as strength. I set the phone face down and made tea. The quiet hum of the kettle filled the space where anger should have been. At 5 p.m., the group chat exploded again. My sister. I can't log into the cameras. Mom's freaking out. Dad. Mortgage company called. Did you mess with something? Mom. You need to stop this nonsense. We're family. I stared at the word family until it stopped looking like a word. Then I typed, Family doesn't trade your seat for a discount on flooring, and hit send. 5 seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. That night, I worked quietly from Maya's kitchen table, cleaning up what I'd started. The phone plan transfer was complete. Their lines would deactivate by Thursday if they didn't claim them. The mortgage cosigner removal was in review. The business terminations had processed fully. No access, no backups, no backdoors. Maya poured me another cup of coffee. You ever think they'll understand why you're doing this? I shook my head. They don't see reasons, only results. At 8:37 p.m., my mom called again. I answered this time, just to hear the tone. Her voice was calm, too calm. Sarah, listen. We didn't mean for things to get so bad. You're taking it too far. We're struggling now. The house could go into default if you don't help. I know, I said. So you'll fix it? No, Mom, I'll let it break. There was a pause, a sharp inhale. You're being cruel. I'm being consistent. And I hung up. The next morning, I found the courage to open the admin logs. Overnight, the accounting firm's network had gone completely dark. So had the dental clinic. My uncle sent another email. All caps this time. Urgent. Patient files inaccessible. I deleted it. By lunch, Maya's phone rang. She frowned when she saw the caller ID. Your mom's trying me now. Don't answer, I said. She didn't. We sat there for a while, listening to the winter wind tapping the windows. Finally, Maya said softly, They're not angry, you know. I raised an eyebrow. They're scared. They just don't have another word for it. That line stuck with me, because she was right. For the first time, they couldn't reach me, couldn't control the story, couldn't manipulate the silence. At 2:36 p.m., another text came in from Dad. We just thought you liked helping. You never asked for anything, right? I stared at it for a long time. That was the whole problem in one sentence. If you never ask, they never have to give. If you never make noise, they call you quiet instead of invisible. That night, as the sun bled out over the rooftops, Maya and I walked down to the old lake where we used to skip stones as kids. The ice shimmered like glass. She turned to me. You're finally free of them, aren't you? Not yet, I said. Freedom's not silence. It's when their noise stops echoing. We walked home in quiet agreement, each breath frosting in the cold, knowing the next step wasn't destruction. It was distance. The first real evidence that my absence was sinking in came on a Wednesday morning when I opened my inbox and found a single-word subject line. Help. It was from my uncle's clinic manager. She wrote that their billing system had frozen overnight, that none of the staff could access patient records, and that my uncle was in a panic. We didn't realize everything ran through your network, she admitted. Please, if you could just reset it. I didn't even finish reading. I forwarded it to a trusted colleague and added one line. They'll need full recovery service. Charge your emergency rate. It wasn't about revenge. It was about making them live in the economy they'd built. By noon, my dad's number flashed across the screen. I let it ring. Then my mom. Then my sister. Over and over until it became background noise. Maya sat across from me at the kitchen table, working quietly on her laptop. Finally, she looked up. You know they're going to show up in person, right? I know. You ready for that? I wasn't sure, but I nodded anyway. Around 3 o'clock, another text arrived. This time from my mother. We didn't mean it, Sarah. We were just upset. Everyone says things they don't mean around the holidays. That phrase, everyone says things, scraped through me like sandpaper. I'd heard it all my life. They said it after every insult that landed too hard. Every jab disguised as a joke. Every manipulation disguised as care. Say it, deny it, forget it. Their holy trinity of family logic. I typed back 3 words and deleted them before sending. There was no point. An hour later, another message came through, longer this time. It wasn't about not wanting you there. We were trying to help Mrs. Langford feel included. She's important to us, especially now that she's giving us a deal on the new flooring. We thought you'd understand. That was it. The quiet confirmation I hadn't realized I'd been waiting for. They didn't even deny it. They justified it. I showed the message to Maya. She read it once, then gave a small, disbelieving laugh. So, your seat was worth $2 a square foot. I smiled, but it wasn't joy. It was exhaustion. Guess I was overpriced. At 4:19 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Not from them this time, but from Ellie, my cousin, my uncle's daughter. They're telling everyone you destroyed the family, she wrote. They told me to stay away from you, said you're dangerous now. Dangerous. like independence was violence. I called her immediately. Ellie answered on the first ring. Her voice trembled at first, but steadied as we talked. She told me everything. The pressure to take over her dad's clinic, the arranged introductions to approved men, the guilt, the control, the way her choices were treated like rebellion. "It's not just you, Sarah," she said. "They've done this to all of us, just different flavors of it." By the end of the call, she said something I didn't expect. "I want out too, not just emotionally, legally. I want to build something new, with you." I didn't answer right away. I just sat there, phone warm in my hand, trying to remember the last time someone in our family had said they admired me. I couldn't. When I told Maya about the conversation, she didn't seem surprised. She's brave. Maybe braver than either of us were at her age. That night, the wind came hard against the windows. I was halfway through a spreadsheet when my sister's name lit up the phone again. I almost ignored it. Almost. "Are you still paying for my spring tuition?" Not even a hello. Not even an attempt at pretending it was about something else. I stared at the message for a full minute, then typed back one word: no. I could practically imagine her reaction, her shock, the frantic call to Mom, the whispered conference that would follow. "She's just being dramatic. She'll come around." But not this time. This wasn't revenge. This was rebalancing. For years, I'd been the quiet engine behind their comfort. I'd kept the house warm, the accounts paid, the network secure. I'd made it look easy, and they mistook easy for endless. Now the lights were out, and they were realizing they never learned how to flip the switch themselves. Maya joined me on this porch that night, wrapping an old blanket around her shoulders. The sky was a sheet of dull gray. Somewhere in the distance, a neighbor's wind chime rang like laughter. "They're going to come here," she said. "I know." "You ready?" I nodded. "Let them." They showed up the next afternoon, just after 2. The doorbell rang, followed by a series of impatient knocks. I didn't move. Maya opened the door, but only halfway. It was my mother first, clutching her purse like a lifeline. My father behind her, stiff and quiet. My sister hovering on the porch, arms crossed, eyes full of accusation. Maya stood her ground. "You can stand outside," she said. My dad pushed past her anyway, walked into the living room like he still owned the place. My mother followed, slower. My sister stayed near the door, silent but smirking. I was at the kitchen table, laptop open, but I didn't stand. Dad spoke first. "You look tired." I didn't answer. Mom jumped in with her script. "Families fight. It's the holidays. Things got said in anger. We didn't mean it." She waited for me to respond. I didn't. Then came the real line: "We need you." There it was. The truth, wrapped in a plea. Not "we miss you," not "we're sorry," just "we need you." I stood up slowly. Maya moved to stand beside me. "You didn't want me," I said. "You made that clear. You told me I ruined everything. You didn't need me until I stopped fixing your mistakes." Dad started to interrupt. Something about heat of the moment, but I kept going. "You used what I built. You took credit for what I gave. And when I stopped, you called me dangerous. You don't want family. You want function." My sister's patience snapped. "So you're just cutting everyone off because of one night?" I laughed. For the first time in days, it sounded real. "This isn't about one night. It's about 20 years. Mom's voice cracked. "We didn't know how much you'd done for us." I shook my head. "You didn't know because you didn't care. It worked, and that was enough." The silence that followed was deep, almost peaceful. "Leave," I said finally. No one argued. They just moved slowly back toward the door. But before my dad stepped out, he turned to me and said, "You'll regret this, Sarah. Family is all you have." I met his eyes. "No, Maya's family, Ellie's family. You're just people I grew up around." They left without another word. The door closed behind them with the soft click of something permanent. The message from the mortgage company arrived 3 days later. Subject line: "Status update, cosigner, removal complete." I opened it slowly, like peeling back the last layer of a wound. The notice was official, concise, emotionless. Effective immediately, Sarah Lockhart has been released from all obligations related to account XXX. Just like that, it was done. I stared at the screen for a long time before I realized I was smiling. Not because I wanted to celebrate, there was no confetti moment here, but because something inside me finally stopped clenching. For years, I'd been the invisible foundation, the one holding everything steady while they lived comfortably above me. Now, the weight was theirs alone. That night, Maya found me standing at the kitchen window, the document still open on my laptop. "You look lighter," she said. "I feel like someone finally took their hand off my throat." "Then it's about time," she said softly. But even with that new air in my lungs, there was still one thing left to do. I had to say goodbye properly, on my own terms. The next afternoon, I drove to my parents' house, the one I'd grown up in, the one that used to feel like gravity. It looked smaller than I remembered. The shutters were chipped, the driveway cracked. A single strand of Christmas lights still hung half dead across the porch. My dad opened the door before I knocked, like he'd been waiting. My mom stood behind him, cautious, rehearsed. The air inside smelled like old pine candles and cold dinners. I didn't step fully in at first, just looked around. The furniture hadn't changed. Same dining table, same chairs. I could still see the faint scratches on the corner where I'd done my homework as a kid. "I came to say thank you," I said. My mom blinked. "For what?" "For reminding me who you really are." She flinched, hand rising to her chest like she'd been physically hit. "Sarah, please." "You don't get to cry," I said quietly. "Not when you built the story this way." My dad crossed his arms. "We made mistakes, but we're still your parents." "Parents protect," I said. "You leveraged." He started to speak again, but I cut him off. "You made me believe I had to earn a place here. You only called it love when it looked good on you. I spent half my life fixing your messes, and you called it help. You never once asked how much it cost." My mother's voice broke. "We didn't know." "You didn't want to," I said, "because knowing would have meant admitting you needed me." I took one last look around the room, at the family photos still smiling on the walls, at the Christmas decorations packed neatly back into boxes, and felt the strange calm of closure. "You'll figure it out," I said. "You always do, just not on my back anymore." I turned and walked out before they could say another word. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting. Maya was waiting in the car with the engine running. When she saw my face, she didn't ask what happened. She just nodded once and handed me a coffee. As I buckled my seatbelt, my phone buzzed with a message from Ellie. "We're doing this. I have everything ready. Come by tomorrow." When I arrived the next day, Ellie was already at Maya's kitchen table with 2 coffees and a folder thick enough to hold a decade of ghosts. She didn't bother with small talk. "This is everything," she said, sliding it toward me. "Emails, messages, even screenshots. I've been collecting them for years." I opened it and started reading. The words hit like echoes. Manipulation disguised as care. Threats dressed up as family advice. The way our parents, hers and mine, had pushed, punished, and controlled anyone who didn't fit their narrative. Ellie's eyes met mine. "They did the same thing to you, didn't they?" "Different shape," I said. "Same game." She nodded, resolute now. "Then I want out. Legally, financially, everything. I want to start something new. I want you and Maya in." For a long moment, none of us spoke. Then Maya smiled, small but fierce. "Let's do it." And that was it. The 3 of us sat there, building the first plans for something our parents would never understand, something free. In the months that followed, we built a company of our own. Not a tech empire, not yet, just a clean start. Ellie handled management, Maya handled marketing, and I ran the systems. Every day felt like steady breathing after years underwater. There were no big confrontations, no dramatic scenes, just the quiet satisfaction of distance. My parents sold the house less than a year later. The mortgage caught up to them. My sister dropped out of school and moved back home. They tried to reach out a few times, but I never answered. Some stories don't need an ending. They just need an escape. Name in neat, looping handwriting I didn't recognize. I almost threw it out. Bills, business mail, the usual clutter. But something about the weight of it made me pause. Inside was a letter, written, not printed, and a small Christmas card tucked behind it. The letter began simply. "Dear Sarah, you don't know me well, but I owe you an apology. I was there that night, the Christmas Eve dinner. I saw what they did." It was signed Mrs. Langford. I sat back in my chair, the words flickering in my hands. She wrote that she'd been watching from the sidelines all this time, ashamed. That she'd always known how wrong it was, the way my parents used me, the way they humiliated me for something as small as a seat at a table. She said she'd only gone along with it because she thought it would make things easier, that she didn't realize how deeply it had cut until she'd seen our company mentioned in a regional tech article, 3 women rebuilding from scratch. She wrote, "The moment I saw your name, I understood what strength really looks like. I wanted to reach out, not to fix anything, but to finally tell the truth. I was part of the problem. I'm sorry." At the end, she added a strange offer. If you're open to it, I'd like to refer my contracting clients to your company. You deserve business built on respect, not obligation. I stared at the paper until the ink blurred. I hadn't expected remorse. I hadn't expected grace. When Maya came home that evening, I handed her the letter. She read it silently, then laughed. Not mockingly, but with relief. You realize what this means, right? She said. That at least one person saw? I asked. That, she nodded, and that the universe has a wicked sense of timing. Ellie arrived the next morning, coffee in hand as always. She read the letter too, smiling as she shook her head. Mrs. Langford, the accidental whistleblower, she said. Who would have guessed? We didn't mock her apology. We didn't need to. It was the first honest thing that had come out of that house in years, and it hadn't even come from them. Tucked behind the letter was the Christmas card. No signatures, just a watercolor pine tree and a handwritten line inside. Next year, no furniture trades. No furniture. It made me laugh. A real, unguarded laugh I hadn't heard from myself in months. I slipped the card into the top drawer of my desk, right beside a photo of the three of us from launch day. We were standing outside our small office space, me, Maya, and Ellie, windblown and exhausted, but grinning like people who had finally stopped apologizing for breathing. That was our family now. Built, not inherited. The company grew faster than we expected. Within 6 months, we were profitable. Within a year, we were featured in the same magazine that once ran ads for my parents' accounting firm. Irony has a sense of humor, I guess. My parents never congratulated me. My sister never reached out. Not once. But they didn't need to. Their silence wasn't punishment anymore. It was peace. Sometimes when I lock up the office at night, I still think about that Christmas Eve. About the drive, the cold, the humiliation. About how small I felt when my mother told me I'd be eating in the kitchen. But then I think about everything that came after. The systems I built, the voices I found, the women who stood beside me and refused to shrink. I used to think freedom meant walking away. Now I know it means staying gone and building something better in the space they left behind. When I leave the office, the lights flick off one by one, soft and automatic. Systems I wrote, doing what I designed them to do. Control, order, quiet. The same things my family used to take from me. Now they belong to me again. And that's enough.